Hello and welcome. Are you ready to get traveling this year?
Yeah, welcome to the RV Living Show. Today we're going to be talking about the 5 must-have travel planning tools that we use in our arsenal to plan our RV travels every day as full-timers. But those of you who aren't full-timers, you can still get tons of tips out of this because these 5 things anybody can use for their RV travel. So we will start talking about those in just a minute. Stay tuned. The RV life. We're surrounded with the message that it's a life you have to wait until retirement to have, and a life that only some can afford. And while it might be reality for those who want to believe that's true, we're on a mission to change that mindset and help people to stop wondering and start wandering to create a life they love.
Join us in conversations about how to design your RV life. We're Bryan and Luann Street, and this is the RV Living Show.
Welcome back, guys. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're Bryan and Luann Street of Where the Streets Wander. This is the RV Living Show. So if you have questions or comments, we want to interact with you. So at the end of this, at the end of the video today, or the show, we're going to answer those questions or comments. So go ahead and tell us where you're from and who's watching. Place those in the comments and we will chat with you when we're done.
That's right, and also especially about the topic, about the traveling tools today. If you got your favorite tool, let us know what it is.
Yeah, if we don't cover your favorite tool today, then yeah, definitely let us know what you like to use when you start planning your RV travels. Okay, so that is our topic, the 5 must-have RV travel planning tools. We travel so often in our full-time life, and so these are the tools that we use that we just don't want to live without.
Yeah, these are our favorite tools, and we use them all the time.
So the first one that we have is called Mountain Directories. And we're going to let Bryan tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah, we found Mountain Directories is a website that gives you a view of like the roads like in North Carolina, where all the mountains are throughout the country, you know, the West Coast, the East Coast, and it tells you the grades, which is very important because there's a lot of times it's hard to find, you know, certain roads you're on if there's like a steep grade, like 7%, 8%, and not only does it tell you the grade, it tells you how long the grade is, you know, and how it changes or if there's any transitions in the grade. I use the tool a lot. As a matter of fact, when we were in northern Georgia, we were heading towards Virginia. We were going to go right through the mountains. It was a great tool to let me know what the particular grades were on a certain road and where they were. So we were able to find some roads that were just a little bit different path, and the grades were not nearly as bad. You know, yes, we can go up and down grades all the time, but it's good to know, you know, if you're not, when you're traveling, or especially if you're towing something, where they are and how to plan for them.
Yeah, I think that is the key, the preparation. And you can also, you know, have the expectation set before you go into those grades, especially like you said, if you're towing or if this is the first time you've driven in the mountains. You don't want to go on a route that is a potential for added stress in driving your RV or towing your RV. So yeah. Mountain Directories actually has printed books that if you're a paper and pen person, then a printed book may be what you want to have in your RV. They also have an app for Android only. Their iOS version is an ebook. So you can check into those at mountaindirectory.com. When we head west this next year, we will be using this guide extensively as we get out into the mountains so that we're just prepared and that we know what's ahead and that we don't get stuck in some place and on some road we don't want to be.
That's right. It's very important. I like to plan ahead my routes for sure.
Okay, that's the only thing he likes to plan ahead for, guys. That's our inside joke, because I'm the planner, he's the winger, except when it comes to driving down the road, which I appreciate. Okay, so the next RV planning tool that we use is Santa Dump. And their site is really cute because it says where RVs when RVs have to go. So I think that's really funny. But this is important when you are RVing. If you are boondocking a lot, let's say you go to a Walmart and you're overnight, and then your next night may be a Harvest House. And so you're 2 nights in a row, and you need to get rid of your gray water, right? And your potty if it's getting full. So you're going to need a place to dump. Well, you know, dump stations aren't just readily advertised anywhere. Right. So this is a great resource for you to find that dump station that's close to you. So you can get on the santadumps.com. Just be aware, there's a lot of ads on there. So just be careful where you're clicking. You may be taken to another site, just go back. And there's a search bar on there where you can search by zip code, or you can look it up by state or any of that kind of searching. It also has dump stations in Australia and Canada. And I think coming up, Mexico, I saw somewhere on the site that Mexico was also on there. So this is a great resource to use when you need to dump your potty and dump your gray water.
Yeah, you never know when you need to clean out, and it's a good place to do it.
Yeah. I know, like Camping World and do pilots have dump stations?
Well, some do for sure.
Yeah, some do. You can use your pilot app to figure that out.
Also, some rest areas in certain states, you can find dump stations as well.
Yeah, there was one state we went through that every rest area had a dump. It was like, wow, that's really cool. Yeah. So anyway, this is a great resource. You can buy, this is free. So you can just look it up online, and it's only on the web. There is no app, so you can't download an app to your phone. But if you do want a paper version of it, you can buy their ebook, and then you could keep it on your iPad or your tablet and be able to read it and find the dump stations that way. And then you're not subject to having to have internet in order to find it. Same thing with mountain directories. If you have limited Wi-Fi, the paper version may be something that you want to do, or the app on your phone should work without Wi-Fi once the app's installed.
Yeah, now we downloaded it to our computer, which works without Wi-Fi because it's
it's an application on your computer. It's an application
on your computer.
Okay, right. Yeah. So that makes it handy, and then you don't have to have Wi-Fi. You can just use it on your computer. So, okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is RV Trip Wizard. Now, RV Trip Wizard, and then the next tool that we're talking about after that is called Campground Reviews, have actually been bought last year sometime, maybe the year before, by RV Life. If you haven't heard of that before, RV Life is an app, and they have several products that are wrapped up into your membership with RV Trip Wizard. So if you join RV Trip Wizard, get the RV Life app, and then you have these things at your disposal. But we use RV Trip Wizard for our route planning.
Yes, we like it because if you know where you're going, and if you want to find stops in between, it's nice that pulls up all the campgrounds. Now, I used to do a lot of search for campgrounds from like Google Maps, and found out a lot of them. Google Maps is really not a complete list. She always tells me, go look it up on Trip Wizard, and she's right. When I go look at there, I find a lot more campgrounds, a lot more options. And then the next app we're talking about is the Campground Reviews. Right,
and that's part of it. The Trip Wizard now. It didn't used to be.
And then to me, that's probably the most important thing about planning where you're going to stay is you want a campground that's at least got decent reviews. Right. And so, looking at the reviews, you kind of have to look through the lens of how people are posting about what they were dissatisfied with, and what's really important to you. So if there's some negative reviews, those negative reviews may not even affect you. Like if the bathhouse was dirty, which nobody wants a dirty bathhouse, but if you're self-contained and you have your fifth wheeler motorhome and you don't rely on the bathhouse, then that's not going to be a concern of yours. That you have different criteria that you want in a campground. So just look at those reviews and use your decision making skills with that. Yeah, when I'm looking at a campground, I like to find a place that has fairly decent level campsites and spacious, a little bit, you're not really crammed together too close. Another thing I'm always looking for is what kind of cell phone signal we have.
Yes, that's important to us since we're working. So we need Wi-Fi. And even if you're not working, I mean, I think there are people out there who really like to have access to internet all the time. So Wi-Fi is important. And not even Wi-Fi as far as what the park has, but also the fact that your phone and your data signal will work really well in that park. Right. Those are some criteria that we think about too. The other thing that I wanted to say about the Campground Reviews is that I want to make a more concerted effort this year that when we find a campground that we leave a review for other people to be able to use for their own informational purposes. We tend to use reviews all the time, the reviews on Amazon, right? I mean, we heavily rely on those. And I'm a big user, and I haven't been a big reviewer. And I think I'm going to start this year just being a little more intentional about doing those reviews. And so share the love, because everybody likes to know what's going on, and the reviews are important.
Yeah,
so.
If you find a good park, it's also nice to leave a good review, because people want to read that.
Yeah, the good reviews. I know a lot of people think that, it's usually their impulse to leave that bad review when there's something wrong instead of what was so great about it. So, yeah. So, all right, so we did talk about Campground Reviews, campgroundreviews.com. You can actually look at this for free. The RV Trip Wizard, you can get a 7-day free trial with our link right there, streetswander.com/RV Trip Wizard. And you should check those out, because those are great tools that you can use in your travel planning. So you're going to stay tuned here, because we're going to run our little commercial here, because this is our most favorite must-have travel planning tool, and we're going to go into why and how to use it here in a few minutes. So this episode of the RV Living Show is brought to you by the Complete RV Travel Planner, the only travel planner made specifically for the RV lifestyle. Get yours today at rvtravelplanner.com. So our fifth must-have RV travel planning tool is, yes, it's our own creation, but it came out of a need that we had early on, and when we went full-time, right, Bryan?
I remember that need, because we, just trying to keep track of all the different reservations and different aspects of the reservations.
Right.
Led us to create this, and it's worked very handy for us, I tell you that.
So to give you a little bit of background, when we first started full-timing, Bryan was the one who would make the reservation. He likes to route plan. He likes to know where he's going. He likes to do that. So he would make the reservations because he would know where the campgrounds were along the route. So he started doing that. And so we started having these discussions, and he would make the reservation, and then I would say to him, well, hey, did they, what time is check-in, so that we can know when to leave the next campground, or this campground to go to the next one. And he didn't have that answer. And so he would end up calling the campground back and getting that information. And so as things started to progress in our travel planning, we realized that there were so many questions to ask at a reservation that you may have the need for later.
That's right.
And you don't know when you're going to need this information.
Yeah.
So
that's for sure, because if you're planning your trip and you want to call several campgrounds, you're just trying to get those dates set up right, the payment set up right. And a lot of times I was forgetting to ask these questions.
Yeah, so we actually came up with the Campground Reservation Log, which is actually the cornerstone of our RV travel planner. The Campground Reservation Log was a way for us to keep track of all of our campground reservations, so that we would ask the right questions when we made the reservation. And then that way we could make intelligent decisions moving forward. And one of those really important things was, what is the cancellation policy? Because we would be like sitting here in this RV park and we'd have our next one planned because we're planners. And so if I don't know what the cancellation policy is, that's another phone call back to the campground, because what if I'm sitting here and the next one we changed our minds, because you can go anywhere you want, right? That's the beauty of RVing. And so that whole cancellation thing comes into play when that next campground isn't, maybe you've changed your mind, you don't want to go there anymore, but you've put money down. And most campgrounds now are taking deposits.
They are taking deposits. You need to know how much money you put down.
Yes, how much money you put down. If you're going to get your money back if you cancel, if there's a time frame in which you need to cancel, those are all important things about the cancellation policy. So that was something that we put into this campground reservation log. So if you don't have one of ours, or you don't have a travel planner yet, you can download a campground reservation log at streetswander.com, campground-reservation-log, and get that, and really kind of implement that into your RV life right now, because it will help you in making those reservations and answering all the questions. It prompts you to use your campground memberships, go down the list. Maybe in the next place you want to be able to play pickleball at, you want to be able to check the box and say, yeah, we can play pickleball there, or there's a great lake there because we're kayaking, all the different things that maybe you want to know about that campground. So you can check that out. So from that campground reservation log, we ended up creating the Complete RV Travel Planner, and it took on a life of its own. It has been an amazing tool that we like to use in our own life. It was born out of our need, right? And
it was, for sure.
Trying to just keep track of everything that we were doing in our life, our destination planning, even our life planning as we were, doing things in our RV all the time. It has come in really handy for that. There's tons of options in there to keep track of all your pets information. There's bucket list things. There's state by state guides in there that you can use. Not guides, they're places to record ideas, bucket list and destination ideas. So anyway, if you don't have one, check it out. But this is the culmination of all of our travel planning. So we use Santa dumps, we use mountain directories for the route planning and the dumping if we need it, and the RV Trip Wizard to plan our route. And then we put it all into our travel planner because we like pen and paper. We don't want to have to be, worried about whether we had Wi-Fi or not. And sometimes you just don't want to boot up your computer. You just don't want to have to do that. And so the paper and pen is a great way to do it. So that's why we created it.
It's easy and quick to grab and just look at where you're going and have all the information right there in front of you.
That's right. Okay, so that is our 5 must-haves. We want to know what your must-haves are, so we're going to go into the comments here in a minute. But before we do that, I want to tell you, next week we're going to be talking about what we learned about buying an RV. So if you're in the market for an RV for the first time, or you are, maybe considering your second RV purchase, we have some tips for you. So join us next week on that RV Living Show.
Thank you for joining us for the RV Living Show. We hope this episode helps you in creating an RV life you love.
Until next time, we encourage you to stop wondering and start wandering.